Hello and welcome to Behind the Lines. I'm Diane Dayton. Geeks, geezers, and Googlization. What does all of this mean? Well, we're going to find out today when we talk to the author of that book. And with us today right now is Dr. Ira Wolfe. Thank you for being with us.
Hi, Dan.
What an interesting title for the book. What is this all about? How did it come about?
Well, it's been fun. It's been a work in progress.
Okay.
Over the years, I've talked about the perfect labor storm before, and it was about different age groups and aging demographics. And what got disrupted, certainly in the last few years, because of baby boomers staying longer, being the workaholics they are, not leaving the workplace, and then being, really staying in their jobs because of decimated 401ks and retirement funds. You have 4 different age groups in the workplace right now. So you have aging boomers and even an older generation than that. And then you have Gen X and Gen Y. So you have all these people. So there's this concept of everybody jokes with one another about being a geek or being a geezer, and so we selected the title, and things evolved from there.
Yeah. Now, some people may remember you from being on before with some of the books that you have. You're an author, you're a consultant, you're a speaker. Give us a little bit more of your background and why this is so important in what you do.
Well, the core part of our business has been in workforce development, I guess, if you will. I have a company called Success Performance Solutions. We provide pre-employment testing and leadership testing to other companies, to employers that are either looking at hiring people or promoting people. And over the last 15 years, there's certainly been ups and downs in our economy, but one of the trends has just been with an aging demographic in the U.S., certainly the topics of immigration, but social economic changes. We have a very diverse economy now, or a very diverse population. So there's a lot of other issues. That became the perfect labor storm. As we moved forward, one of the issues that I continued to have managers and employers be concerned about was, these young kids. Today they're coming in and only, they only want to work part-time, or they want flex hours, and who do they think they are? We've worked for 45 years and walked uphill both ways to get there, and then the young kids are saying, well, we want to see our kids grow up, and we want to take a long weekend. So there was a number of generational differences that started to crop up, and so that became the evolution of all the things that are going on in the workplace as kind of workforce trends, and particularly dominant, with the growing economy and reverse now because of the recession. There's certainly issues that are coming up, differences in generations.
Sure. Well, let's talk about where we all fit in with these different generations and see maybe perhaps where each one of us fit in, and we can understand a little bit more. Let's see. Where do you want to start? With which?
Well, why don't we start with the oldest?
Okay. And work out.
Those, and again, this book was really written for the workplace, but my mother is 86 years old and very active, and and then somebody says, my mother's 90 years old, and my father's 92 years old, and so there's a level of activity that goes beyond what we had before. But anyone born before 1945, I kind of lumped into a group called the veterans. They're sometimes called the greatest generation, Tom Brokaw's book, the silent generation. But for all intents and purposes, the workplace is made up. There's a number of people that were born before 1945 or earlier, and they make up what we call the veterans. And then we get to probably the most famous group to date, which is the baby boomers.
Right.
And they were born between 1946 and 1964. Very large group, almost 78 million people were part of that group. There's some discussion right now whether that's actually 2 groups, the baby boomers and Generation Jones. That became popular during Obama's election. They talked about being being on the younger side of that. And there's certainly differences of people born in 1960 or 62 versus 1946.
Right.
But as a whole, there was a lot of shared history that went on in the baby boomers. And then you had Gen X, and one of the most significant things about Gen X is it's about half the size of baby boomers. Why? Baby boomers didn't get married as early, maybe more often. I was going to say as early and often, but they actually got married more often because of divorces. But there were a lot of split families, but they didn't have large families, and they got married later in life, and some of them didn't have children at all. So the Gen X was 1965, 1979, smaller group. and they right now are the 30 to 45 years old. They're the next line. That's the next leadership group that we have, and that's where some of my perfect labor storm come into being. If truly 78 million baby boomers all decided to retire when they were supposed to retire, kind of 62, 65 years old, leave the workplace, you ended up with only half as many people being able to move up in the Gen X group to take their place, and that was where that brain drain was coming out. And then you have the youngest group that's entering the workplace. It's not the youngest group, but the youngest group entering the workplace is Gen Y. Many people call them the trophy kids. Sometimes they call them millennials. Okay. And they were born 1980 to 2000.
Okay. All right. So there are the different groups.